The navy blazer cost her last $50. Camila Montenegro smoothed the fabric one final time, her reflection in the cracked bedroom mirror showing a woman ready for war. The morning light cut through her small apartment like a blade, illuminating the sleeping form of Diego, 5 years old with dark curls spread across his pillow. She kissed his forehead, tasting salt and hope. The elevator to the 40th floor felt like ascending into another dimension. Cain Enterprises towered over the city, all glass and steel and impossible dreams. Camila's portfolio trembled slightly in her hands as she stepped into the reception area, where white marble floors reflected her worn heels. Patricia Wells appeared, silver-haired and kind-eyed, smelling of expensive perfume. "Miss Montenegro, your portfolio impressed us tremendously. The position involves working directly with our CEO, Sebastian Cain." The name registered somewhere deep in Camila's chest, but she nodded professionally. Patricia led her through corridors lined with awards and art, stopping before mahogany doors that opened to reveal an office the size of her entire apartment. The man behind the desk rose, tall and broad-shouldered in charcoal gray. Dark hair, green eyes, a face that had haunted 5 years of dreams. Miami, the hotel bar. The stranger who had listened. The night that gave her Diego. Their eyes locked across the distance. Recognition hit him like thunder. His composed mask cracked for a single devastating second. "Miss Montenegro," Sebastian Cain said, his voice rougher than it should be. "Please have a seat." Camila's legs carried her forward on autopilot. The city sprawled below them through floor-to-ceiling windows, oblivious to the earthquake happening in this room. "Your qualifications are impressive," he continued, never breaking eye contact. "Tell me about your most successful campaign." She spoke about social media strategies and consumer engagement, watching his gaze linger on her mouth, the subtle tension in his jaw. He remembered everything. The way she laughed. The way she felt. "Do you have any personal commitments that might interfere with these demands?" His question was professionally phrased, but his eyes asked something else entirely. "I'm completely committed to professional excellence." She chose each word like selecting bullets. "I have a strong support system." Sebastian leaned forward, fingers steepled. "Your family situation." Patricia shifted uncomfortably, but Camila cut through the tension. "I'm a single mother. It's never impacted my performance. If anything, it's made me more determined." Something flickered in his eyes. Pain, perhaps, or recognition of something lost. "And the father?" "Not involved. It's been just my son and me since he was born." When Patricia left to take a phone call, the office became a pressure chamber. Sebastian moved to the window, hands clasped behind his back. "Miami." His voice was quiet, dangerous. "The Fontainebleau Hotel. 5 years ago." Camila's breath stopped. "I don't know what you're talking about." He turned, green eyes burning into hers. "You left without saying goodbye. Without even telling me your name. That was a long time ago." "Just one night, was it?" He moved closer, close enough that she could smell his cologne. Different but equally intoxicating. "Because I've thought about that night more times than I care to admit. The woman who laughed at my terrible jokes, who talked about changing the world, who felt like she belonged in my arms." Camila stood abruptly, her composure shattering. "Mr. Cain, I came for a job interview, not to revisit ancient history. If you're not comfortable hiring me because of our brief encounter, I understand." He stepped closer still. "What's complicated is that I can't decide if this is the best coincidence of my life or the most dangerous trap I've ever walked into." Patricia returned, oblivious. Sebastian slid his businessman mask back into place seamlessly. "We were just concluding. Miss Montenegro, the position is yours if you want it. Starting salary is $120,000 annually. The number was oxygen, freedom, Diego's future in a single figure. I accept." "Excellent." Patricia beamed. "You can start Monday." As they prepared to leave, Sebastian's voice stopped her. "Miss Montenegro. One more thing. This position requires absolute discretion and loyalty. I need to trust the people in my inner circle completely." The warning landed like a fist. Camila met his gaze steadily. "You can count on my complete professionalism, Mr. Cain. Always. That evening, Diego colored at their kitchen table, tongue poking out in concentration. He looked up with eyes that were unmistakably Sebastian's, the same green, the same intelligence. "Mommy, you look sad." "Not sad, baby. Just thinking about my new job." As she tucked him into bed, Diego asked his usual question. "Mommy, do you think my daddy would like me if he met me?" The question pierced clean through. "Any daddy would be lucky to have you. You're the most wonderful little boy in the whole world." "Maybe someday I'll meet him. Maybe someday," she whispered. But lying in her own bed, staring at the ceiling, Camila knew that someday had arrived. Sebastian Cain was Diego's father, and starting Monday, she would work beside him every day, carrying a secret that could destroy them both. Monday morning tasted like steel and coffee. Camila's new office was adjacent to Sebastian's, connected by a door that remained closed all morning. Patricia guided her through systems and protocols, introducing her to department heads who smiled with varying degrees of warmth. By noon, the connecting door opened. "Miss Montenegro." "My office." Sebastian stood backlit by the window, a silhouette of controlled power. His desk held 3 folders and a single photograph, face down. "Your first assignment." He slid a folder across the mahogany surface. "We're acquiring a tech startup in San Francisco. I need a full marketing strategy by Friday. Can you handle that?" Camila opened the folder, scanning financials and market research. "Yes." "Good. We'll work late tonight. Order dinner for 7. The door closed behind him before she could respond. The week unfolded in a rhythm of proximity and distance. They worked side by side, reviewing campaigns and strategies, their conversations strictly professional. But the air between them crackled with unspoken history. Sebastian's hand would brush hers, reaching for documents. His cologne would fill her lungs when he leaned over her shoulder to examine her laptop screen. Thursday evening, they were alone in his office when rain began hammering the windows. The city lights blurred into watercolor streaks beyond the glass. "You're good at this," Sebastian said, studying her presentation on his screen. "Better than I expected." "Because you didn't expect much from a one-night stand?" The words escaped before she could stop them. Sebastian's eyes snapped to hers, sharp and dangerous. "Because I didn't expect to ever see you again." He stood, moving to the window. "Do you have any idea what that morning did to me? Waking up alone, thinking maybe I'd imagined how perfect it felt." Camila's throat tightened. It wasn't perfect. It was a mistake. Was Diego a mistake? The name hung between them like a detonation. Camila's blood turned to ice. "What did you say?" Sebastian turned, his face carved from stone. "Your son, Diego, 5 years old. Dark curls, green eyes." He pulled his phone from his pocket, turning the screen toward her. "I had my security team do a background check. Standard procedure for all new hires. Imagine my surprise when I saw the birth certificate. The age. The fact that there's no father listed." Camila stood, her chair scraping against the floor. "You had no right." "I had every right. You're working in my company, with access to confidential information." He moved closer, his voice dropping to something raw and wounded. "But that's not why I looked. I looked because I couldn't stop thinking about that night. About you. About the timing. Get out of my way. Is he mine, Camila?" Her name in his mouth was violence and prayer combined. She felt tears burning behind her eyes, 5 years of secrets threatening to pour out. "You don't get to ask me that. You don't get to investigate my life and then demand answers. Is he mine?" "Yes." The word ripped out of her. "Yes, he's yours. And you don't deserve to know him." Sebastian's face transformed, cycling through shock, anger, something that might have been joy before settling into cold fury. "I don't deserve to know my own son. You're a stranger, a billionaire who lives in a different world. What was I supposed to do? Show up at your office 5 years ago, pregnant and desperate, begging for help? You were supposed to tell me." His voice cracked. "You were supposed to give me a choice. Like you gave me a choice when you walked away that morning without leaving a number?" "Oh wait, I was the one who left, because I was ashamed, because I thought you were just another businessman looking for a distraction." Sebastian grabbed her arm, Not rough, but firm enough to stop her from fleeing. I looked for you. After you left, I searched for 3 months. Hotels, hospitals, police reports. You vanished like smoke. Camila stared at him, her world tilting. You looked for me every day, until I convinced myself you didn't want to be found. His grip loosened, his thumb brushing the inside of her wrist where her pulse hammered. I have a son. We have a son. Don't. She pulled away. Don't say we like you've been there. Like you've sat up all night with him when he had fever. Like you've stretched every dollar to buy his birthday presents. Like you've answered his questions about why he doesn't have a father. Let me meet him. No. Camila. I said no. You can fire me if you want. Sue me for custody if that's what billionaires do. But you're not walking into Diego's life until I know you're going to stay. Sebastian's jaw tightened, a muscle jumping beneath his skin. I'm not going anywhere. Prove it. The challenge hung in the air between them, loaded with 5 years of hurt and longing. Sebastian's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, his expression hardening. We're not done with this conversation, but I have an emergency in San Francisco. I'm leaving tonight. He moved to his desk, gathering files. Come with me. We'll present the strategy to the acquisition team together. 2 days. Consider it a business trip. I can't just leave Diego. Bring him. Camila's breath caught. What? Bring him. There's room on the jet. We'll stay at a hotel with a pool. Kids like pools. His eyes met hers, vulnerable in a way that made her chest ache. I'm not asking to be his father yet. I'm asking for a chance to see him, to start understanding what I've missed. This is insane. Probably. Sebastian pulled on his suit jacket. But I'm done pretending you're just my assistant. I'm done pretending I don't know I have a son. He moved to the door, pausing with his hand on the knob. The jet leaves at 6 a.m. I'll send a car for you at 4. I haven't agreed to this. He looked back, his green eyes blazing with something fierce and desperate. You will, because you're as tired of lying as I am, and because part of you, the part that stayed with me that night in Miami, wants to see if this could be something more than a mistake. The door closed behind him, leaving Camila alone in the office with rain streaming down the windows and her heart hammering against her ribs. She thought about Diego's question that morning. Mommy, will you like your new job? She pulled out her phone and dialed Rosa. I need a favor. How do you feel about San Francisco? The private jet smelled like leather and possibility. Diego pressed his face against the window, watching clouds drift beneath them like cotton. He wore his favorite superhero shirt, oblivious to the fact that the man sitting across the aisle was his father. Sebastian kept stealing glances at the boy, his expression cycling through wonder and pain. Camila watched them both, her stomach twisted into knots. Are you a prince? Diego asked suddenly, pointing at Sebastian's expensive watch. Sebastian's lips twitched. Why would you think I'm a prince? Because Mommy said we're flying on a special plane to a special meeting. And you have a fancy watch. Princes have fancy things. I'm not a prince. I'm a businessman. That's much less interesting. Diego considered this seriously. Do you have superheroes where you work? No, but I have people who solve problems. That's kind of like being a superhero. The boy's eyes lit up. I want to solve problems when I grow up. Sebastian's voice went rough. I think you'd be excellent at that. Camila looked away. Blinking hard against tears she refused to shed at 30,000 feet. The hotel overlooked the bay, all glass and modern luxury. Diego gasped at the pool visible from their suite window, already pulling at his shoes. Can we swim, Mommy? Please? After the meeting, baby. Mr. Cain and I have work to do first. But Sebastian was already loosening his tie. The meeting isn't until tomorrow morning. The pool sounds perfect. He met Camila's stunned gaze. You did bring swimsuits, didn't you? An hour later, Camila sat poolside in a modest one-piece, watching Sebastian teach Diego how to float. The billionaire CEO had transformed into someone else entirely, patient and playful, catching the boy every time he started to sink. I've got you, Sebastian kept saying. I won't let you fall. Diego trusted him completely, the way children trust before the world teaches them to doubt. And watching them together, Camila felt something crack open in her chest. This was what she'd stolen from both of them. This moment, these 5 years of moments, "Mommy, look. I'm floating!" she applauded, forcing brightness into her voice. "You're amazing, baby." That evening, they ordered room service. Diego fell asleep between them on the couch, exhausted and happy. Sebastian carried him to the bedroom without being asked, tucking him in with unexpected gentleness. When he returned, Camila was standing on the balcony, city lights spreading below like fallen stars. "He's incredible," Sebastian said quietly, joining her. "He has your laugh. He has your eyes, your stubborn chin. I missed everything. His birth, his first steps, his first words. I know. Why didn't you try harder to find me?" Camila turned to face him, the question she'd been dreading finally surfacing. "Because I was ashamed. Because I came from nothing and you came from everything. Because I convinced myself you wouldn't want a baby from a one-night stand. Because I was scared." Her voice broke. "Because I was 23 and terrified and alone." Sebastian's hand came up, cupping her face with devastating tenderness. "You should have been scared of me finding out. Because now that I know, I'm never letting either of you go. Sebastian, I mean it, Camila. I want to be his father. I want to know everything. How he takes his eggs. What makes him laugh. What he's afraid of in the dark. It's not that simple. It is exactly that simple." He kissed her then, and it was nothing like Miami. That had been alcohol and loneliness and desperate connection. This was deliberate. Claiming. A kiss that tasted like promises and threats combined. Camila pulled away, breathless. "We can't do this. I work for you. Diego needs stability, not whatever complicated mess we'd create." "Then quit." "What?" "Quit working for me. I'll pay you the same salary as a settlement. You can find another job, and we can figure out co-parenting without the professional complications." "You'd pay me to quit?" "I'd pay anything to make this work." His hands framed her face, forcing her to meet his eyes. "I've spent 5 years wondering what happened to you. Now I know. I have a son, and I'm in love with his mother." The words hit like bullets. "You don't love me. You don't even know me. I know you sacrificed everything for our son. I know you're brilliant and fierce and terrified of needing anyone. I know you felt it too, that night in Miami. The way the world shifted when we touched." Camila's phone buzzed. She pulled it from her pocket, grateful for the interruption, then froze at the message on the screen. Unknown number. "Interesting family reunion. Does the board know their CEO has a secret son? Does the press?" She turned the screen toward Sebastian, watching his face harden into something dangerous. "Who is this?" Another message appeared. "Meet me tomorrow at noon. Pier 39. Come alone, or everyone learns the truth." Sebastian's jaw clenched. "It's Marcus Reeves, my former business partner. I forced him out last year for embezzlement. He knows about Diego. He's been watching us. The bastard probably had someone follow us from the airport." Sebastian pulled out his own phone. "I'm calling security." "No," Camila grabbed his wrist. "If you involve security, he'll go straight to the press. This is exactly what I was afraid of. Your life, your reputation, everything you've built, all of it destroyed because I couldn't keep Diego a secret." "You didn't destroy anything. Reeves is trying to blackmail us." "Then let me handle it." "Absolutely not. He wants me to come alone. If you show up, he'll release the story out of spite. But if I go, maybe I can buy us time." Sebastian pulled her against him, his heart hammering beneath her palm. "I'm not letting you walk into a trap. I'm not asking permission." She looked up at him, memorizing the sharp planes of his face, the green eyes that Diego had inherited. "I've protected him alone for 5 years. I can do this, Camila. Promise me something. If this goes wrong, if Reeves releases the story, you'll take care of Diego. You'll make sure he's safe. Nothing is going to happen to you. Promise me." "Sebastian." He kissed her forehead, a benediction and a vow. "I promise, but you're not going alone. I'll be close. If anything feels wrong, you run." The next morning, Camila stood on Pier 39 with the bay wind whipping her hair. Tourists streamed past, oblivious. At exactly noon, a man in an expensive suit appeared, his smile sharp as broken glass. Miss Montenegro. Or should I say, the mother of Sebastian Cain's secret heir. "What do you want, Mr. Reeves?" "Simple. $5 million transferred to an offshore account. In exchange, I forget what I know." "I don't have $5 million. No." but Sebastian does. Marcus leaned closer, his breath reeking of whiskey. Imagine what the board would say. Their golden boy CEO hiding a child. The scandal would be delicious. Why do you hate him so much? Because he has everything. Power, money, and now apparently a family. His eyes glittered with malice. I'm gonna take it all away from him. Unless you pay. Camila reached into her purse, feeling for her phone. But before she could trigger the recording app, Marcus grabbed her wrist. I'm not stupid. You're wearing a wire, aren't you? Or recording this conversation? I'm not. He yanked her purse away, dumping the contents onto the pier. Her phone clattered to the ground. He crushed it beneath his heel. Tell Sebastian he has 24 hours. After that, I'm calling every news outlet in the country. He walked away, leaving Camila shaking on the pier with tourists flowing around her like a river around a stone. She didn't see the camera in the nearby coffee shop. Didn't see Sebastian watching from 50 feet away, his phone capturing every word. But she did see the black car that screeched to a halt beside Marcus Reeves 3 blocks later. Did see the man who emerged, tall and familiar, rage pouring off him in waves. Sebastian grabbed Marcus by his expensive collar and slammed him against the car. You made a mistake threatening my family. And Camila ran toward them, knowing with terrible certainty that everything was about to change. Sebastian's fist connected with Marcus Reeves's jaw before Camila could scream. The sound cracked through the San Francisco afternoon like thunder. Tourists scattered, pulling out phones to record the billionaire CEO losing control on a public street. Sebastian, stop! Camila grabbed his arm, her fingers digging into expensive fabric. You're making it worse. Marcus spat blood onto the pavement, his smile grotesque and triumphant. That's assault, Cain, on camera. Add it to the scandal. Security materialized from nowhere, pulling Sebastian back. He fought against their grip, his green eyes wild with something beyond rage, something primal and protective and dangerous. I will destroy you, Sebastian said, his voice deadly calm. I will burn your entire life to the ground. You'll try. Marcus wiped blood from his split lip. But first the world learns about your bastard son. The word hit Camila like a physical blow. She felt Sebastian tense beside her, felt the moment he decided to let go of control completely. His name, Sebastian said quietly, is Diego, and he is my son. I don't care who knows. Marcus's triumph faltered. You're bluffing. I'm done hiding. Sebastian pulled out his phone, his hands shaking with adrenaline. Watch. He opened his social media app, the one with 40 million followers. His fingers moved across the screen, typing with violent precision. Then he hit post. The message was simple. 5 years ago, I met someone who changed my life. Today, I discovered we have a son. His name is Diego, and he is the best thing that's ever happened to me. To the press vultures who will inevitably swarm, leave his mother alone. She's a hero. I'm the one who wasn't there. He attached a photo from the pool the day before. Diego mid-laugh, water sparkling around him, Sebastian's hand visible at the edge of the frame steadying him. The post went live. Within seconds, comments flooded in. Within minutes, news alerts began pinging across the city. Marcus stared at the phone, his blackmail evaporating like smoke. You just committed professional suicide. No. Sebastian pocketed his phone. I just took away your power. Now get out of my city before I press charges for attempted extortion. Marcus disappeared into the crowd, defeated and furious. Camila stood frozen, watching her carefully constructed privacy burn down in real time. What did you do? Her voice was hollow. What did you just do to Diego, to us? I protected you. You destroyed us. Every reporter in the country will be at our door. Diego's school, his daycare. They'll follow him everywhere. They'll ask him questions he can't answer. They'll turn him into a spectacle. Sebastian reached for her, but she stepped back. Camila, I had no choice. You had every choice. You could have paid Reeves. You could have handled this quietly and let him own us forever. Let him threaten you every time he needed money. Sebastian's voice rose. I'm not hiding my son. I'm not ashamed of him. This isn't about shame. It's about safety. It's about the life I've built for him. The normal childhood I've protected. Tears streamed down her face. You just stole that from him in a single impulsive post. Then I'll give him something better. Security. Resources. A father who claims him publicly. He doesn't want resources. He wants birthday parties with his friends without cameras. He wants to go to the park without bodyguards. He wants normal. Sebastian's face hardened. Normal is overrated. I grew up normal, watching my mother work 3 jobs to keep us fed. I built this empire so my children would never know that struggle. And I built a life so my child would never know your world. The pressure, the expectations, the knowledge that everyone wants something from you. They stared at each other across an unbridgeable distance, the bay wind cold between them. We need to get back to the hotel, Sebastian said finally, before the press figures out where we're staying. But it was already too late. The hotel lobby swarmed with reporters when they arrived. Cameras flashed like lightning, questions shouted over each other in an incomprehensible roar. Mr. Cain, is it true you have a 5-year-old son? Miss Montenegro, did you deliberately hide the child? How much is the paternity settlement? Is this a publicity stunt? Security pushed them through the chaos toward the elevators. Camila felt hands grabbing at her jacket, phones thrust in her face, the world compressing into a nightmare of noise and light. They burst into their suite to find Rosa standing with Diego, the elderly woman's face pale with shock. Misha, the television. They're saying terrible things. Diego sat on the couch, his superhero action figures abandoned. He looked up at Camila with Sebastian's green eyes, confused and frightened. Mommy, why are people saying mean things about you on TV? Camila dropped to her knees in front of him, gathering him into her arms. It's okay, baby. Sometimes adults say things that aren't true. But they showed your picture. And that man's picture. Diego pointed at Sebastian. They said he's my daddy. The suite went silent. Even the traffic noise from the street seemed to hold its breath. Sebastian moved forward, slowly, like approaching a wild animal that might bolt. Diego. His voice cracked on the name. That's true. I am your daddy. The boy studied him with serious eyes. But you weren't there before. No, I wasn't. And I'm sorry for that. I didn't know about you. But that's not an excuse. I should have tried harder to find your mommy. I should have been there. Are you going to leave again? The question destroyed something in Sebastian's expression. He knelt beside Camila, close enough that their shoulders touched. Never. I promise you, Diego, I will never leave you. Not for anything. Diego considered this with 5-year-old solemnity. Then he reached out, his small hand touching Sebastian's face with heartbreaking gentleness. You look like me. Yeah. Sebastian's voice broke completely. I do. Can I call you Daddy? Camila felt Sebastian shudder beside her, felt the tears he was fighting back. I would love that, more than anything in the world. Diego smiled, the simple joy of a child whose world had just expanded to include the father he'd always wanted. He climbed into Sebastian's arms, and the billionaire held his son for the first time with the kind of desperation that comes from 5 years of not knowing what you were missing. Camila watched them, her heart splintering and reforming into something new, something that hurt and healed simultaneously. But the moment shattered when her phone rang. Patricia Wells' name flashed on the screen. Camila, I need you to listen carefully. The HR director's voice was tight with stress. The board is in emergency session. They're demanding Sebastian's resignation. What? Why? The morality clause in his contract. He knowingly hired the mother of his child without disclosure. They're calling it a conflict of interest. Ethics violation. They want him out by Monday. Camila looked at Sebastian, holding Diego, whispering promises into dark curls. The empire he'd built crumbling around him because he'd chosen to acknowledge his son. What if I resign? The words came before she could think them through. If I quit, there's no conflict of interest. That won't be enough. The damage is done, unless what? Patricia's pause was heavy with implication. Unless Sebastian can prove he didn't know about Diego when he hired you. That this was a genuine coincidence, not favoritism. But I can't prove that without lying. Then he's going to lose everything. Camila ended the call, her hands trembling. Sebastian was watching her, Diego asleep against his chest. They want you out, she said. Unless I say you didn't know about Diego when you hired me. That's a lie. It's the only way to save your company. Sebastian stood carefully. laying Diego on the couch and covering him with a throw blanket. When he turned back to Camila, his face was carved from stone. "I'm not asking you to lie for me." "You don't have to ask. I'm offering." She moved closer, keeping her voice low so Diego wouldn't wake. "You've lost enough because of me. Your privacy, your reputation. I won't let you lose your company, too." "And what happens when someone proves you're lying?" "When an investigator finds evidence that I knew before I hired you, then we deal with it. But right now, this buys us time." Sebastian grabbed her shoulders, his grip almost painful. "I don't want time bought with lies. I want the truth, all of it, out in the open where we can finally breathe. The truth will destroy you, then let it destroy me. I'm tired of building empires on foundations of secrets." His phone rang. He glanced at the screen, his jaw tightening. "It's the board chair. Answer it." Sebastian held her gaze as he lifted the phone to his ear. "This is Cain." He listened for 30 seconds, his expression never changing. "I understand. I'll be there Monday morning." He ended the call. "Emergency board meeting. 9 a.m., they're voting on my termination." "Sebastian, it's done, Camila. The empire is falling. All because I fell in love with you 5 years ago and couldn't let you go." The admission hung between them, raw and devastating. "What are we going to do?" He pulled her against him, his heart hammering beneath her ear. "We're going to tell the truth. All of it. And if they fire me, I'll start over. Build something new. Something better." He tilted her face up, his green eyes fierce. "But I'm doing it with you and Diego. I'm done choosing the empire over my family." Camila kissed him then, desperate and fearless, knowing they were walking into a storm but unable to turn back. What she didn't see was Rosa, watching from the bedroom doorway with tears on her face. What she didn't hear was the elderly woman's phone call 30 minutes later, her voice shaking as she spoke to someone on the other end. "I'm sorry, mija, but you need to know the truth before it's too late." The person on the other end listened, then laughed, and began making plans. Monday morning arrived with fog thick enough to swallow the city. Camila stood in Sebastian's penthouse, watching him adjust his tie in the mirror. Diego was at Patricia's house, safe from the cameras that still prowled the building's entrance like predators. "You don't have to come," Sebastian said, meeting her eyes in the reflection. "Yes, I do." They rode to Cain Enterprises in silence, the city passing beyond tinted windows like a ghost of itself. The building loomed against the gray sky, 40 floors of glass and ambition. Camila's stomach churned with anticipation and dread. The boardroom was arctic. 15 faces turned toward them as they entered, expressions ranging from cold disapproval to outright hostility. At the head of the table sat Victoria Cain, Sebastian's mother, her silver hair pulled back severely, her dark suit immaculate. Camila's breath stopped. "Mother, what are you doing here?" Victoria's smile was knife-sharp. "The board asked me to attend. As the company's largest minority shareholder, I have a vested interest in protecting the empire you seem determined to destroy." Sebastian's jaw clenched. "You haven't been involved in company operations for 10 years? "No, I've been watching you build something extraordinary, and now I'm watching you tear it down for a woman who kept your son from you for 5 years. Victoria's gaze slid to Camila, cold and assessing. "Miss Montenegro, how convenient that you applied for a position at my son's company just weeks after he became the most eligible bachelor in the city, according to Forbes." "That's not what happened," Camila said, but her voice sounded weak even to her own ears. "Isn't it?" Victoria stood, pulling a folder from her briefcase. "I had my investigators look into your employment history. You applied to Cain Enterprises 14 times over the past 3 years. Always rejected. Until suddenly, miraculously, you're called in for an interview directly by Patricia Wells." She slid documents across the table. Camila's hands shook as she recognized her own application submissions, each one stamped with rejection dates. "I applied because I admired the company's marketing strategies. I had no idea Sebastian was the CEO." "You expect us to believe?" Victoria continued, her voice silk over steel. "That you had a child with my son after a one-night encounter. Never told him. Never sought child support. And then coincidentally ended up working for him? It wasn't coincidental. I wanted to work for the best marketing firm in the city. That's all." "Really?" Victoria produced another document. "This is a transcript of a phone call you made to the company's main line. 3 weeks before your interview. You specifically asked if Sebastian Cain conducted interviews personally. The blood drained from Camila's face. I was researching the company culture. You were plotting to get close to him, to use your son as leverage. That's not true. But doubt rippled around the table. Camila felt the story being rewritten in real time, her motivations transformed into something calculated and predatory. Sebastian slammed his hand on the table. Enough. Mother, you've made your point. Now hear mine. He stood, commanding the room with the authority that had built his empire. Camila Montenegro is the mother of my son. She raised him alone for 5 years, working multiple jobs, never asking for my money or my name. When we met again, it was chance, pure coincidence. And yes, I hired her because she's brilliant, because her portfolio was exceptional, because she earned the position. Sebastian, sit down. Victoria's voice was sharp. No, I'm done sitting down while people who don't know her tear her apart. He moved to stand beside Camila, his shoulder touching hers. This board can vote to remove me. You can take my title, but you won't make me ashamed of my son or the woman who gave him life. The boardroom door opened. Rosa Hernandez entered, her elderly frame seeming small in the corporate space. Behind her walked a man Camila didn't recognize, carrying a leather briefcase. Mrs. Hernandez? Camila's voice cracked. What are you doing here? Rosa's eyes were red-rimmed but determined. Telling the truth, mija. All of it. The stranger introduced himself as Thomas Rivera, Rosa's attorney. He placed a folder on the table, and when he opened it, Camila's world tilted sideways. These are text messages between Mrs. Hernandez and Miss Montenegro from 5 years ago, Rivera explained. Dated 2 weeks after Sebastian Cain's one-night encounter with Miss Montenegro in Miami. He read aloud from Camila's messages. Rosa, I think I'm pregnant. I don't know what to do. I don't even know his last name. He said he worked in business, but I was too ashamed to ask more. What kind of mother am I going to be if I can't even remember details about my baby's father? Rosa's response appeared on the projected screen. You're going to be a wonderful mother, mija. If he was meant to be in your life, God will bring him back. Until then, we raise this baby with love. More messages scrolled past. Camila's fear, her determination to keep the baby despite her poverty. Her decision not to hire a private investigator because he doesn't owe me anything. This was my choice. Victoria's face had gone pale. Mrs. Hernandez, the board chair said carefully. Why are you showing us this? Rosa looked at Camila, tears streaming down weathered cheeks. Because I heard Victoria Cain's investigators asking questions in our neighborhood, twisting the truth, making it sound like my Camila planned all this. She turned to the board. I've known this girl since she was 17. I watched her work 3 jobs while pregnant. Watched her cry herself to sleep worrying if she could afford diapers. She didn't know who Sebastian Cain was until she walked into that interview room. Then how do you explain her repeated applications? Victoria demanded. She wanted to work for the best. Is that a crime? Should she have avoided the best marketing firm in the city just in case her son's father might work there? Rosa's voice strengthened with righteous anger. You're punishing her for being ambitious, for being a good mother, for daring to want better. Thomas Rivera placed another document on the table. This is phone records showing Miss Montenegro called the company's main line. But if you review the full transcript, which Mrs. Cain's investigators conveniently omitted, you'll see she was asking about the interview process, whether candidates met with HR directors or department heads. She never mentioned Sebastian Cain by name. The board members shifted uncomfortably. Victoria's carefully constructed narrative was crumbling. Furthermore, Rivera continued, I have sworn testimony from the hotel staff at the Fontainebleau in Miami. They confirmed that Miss Montenegro left Mr. Cain's room at 6 a.m., visibly distraught, and asked the concierge for help finding a cab to the airport. She cut her trip short. Flew home early. Does that sound like someone plotting to trap a billionaire? Sebastian stared at Camila. You left Miami early? I thought you just left my room. I couldn't face you, Camila whispered. I had never done anything like that before. I felt ashamed and stupid, and I just wanted to go home. Jesus, Camila. I looked for you. If I'd known you'd left the city entirely... You looked for her? Rosa interjected, because she meant something to you. Even then. Before Diego. Before any of this. The elderly woman turned to Victoria. Your son fell in love 5 years ago. He just didn't know it yet. And now you're trying to destroy that love to protect a company. Victoria sat down slowly, her composure finally cracking. I built this company with my late husband. Watching Sebastian expand it has been my greatest pride. If he loses control, if the board removes him, everything we built crumbles. Then fight for him, Rosa said simply. Not against the woman he loves. The boardroom fell silent. Outside, fog pressed against the windows like an omen. The board chair cleared his throat. Mr. Cain, Miss Montenegro, the board needs to deliberate in private. We'll call you when we've reached a decision. Sebastian took Camila's hand, threading his fingers through hers as they left the room. Rosa followed, her attorney beside her. In the corridor, Camila turned to the elderly woman. Why did you help us? You could have stayed out of this. Rosa cupped Camila's face with gentle hands. Because I've watched you sacrifice everything for Diego. Your youth, your dreams, your chance at love. It was time someone sacrificed something for you. But Victoria's investigators will come after you now. Let them come. I'm 83 years old and I've survived worse than rich people's lawyers. Rosa smiled. Besides, I have 7 grandchildren who are attorneys. We'll manage. They waited for 3 hours. Sebastian paced. Camila sat with her head in her hands. Rosa prayed quietly in Spanish. When Patricia emerged, her face was unreadable. They want to see you both. The boardroom felt different now, less hostile, more uncertain. Victoria sat at the table, her makeup smudged from tears she'd tried to hide. The board chair spoke carefully. Mr. Cain, the board has voted. 7-8. Sebastian's hand tightened on Camila's. You retain your position as CEO. However, there are conditions. Relief flooded through Camila like a tidal wave. What conditions? Sebastian asked. Miss Montenegro must resign from Cain Enterprises immediately. No severance beyond what's contractually obligated. The appearance of impropriety, even if unintentional, cannot continue. Camila felt Sebastian tense beside her, ready to fight. She squeezed his hand. I accept. Camila, no. It's fine. She looked at the board, her chin lifted with dignity. I'll have my desk cleared by end of day. Furthermore, the chair continued, we require Mr. Cain to issue a public statement clarifying the timeline. That you hired Miss Montenegro without knowledge of your connection. That upon discovery, you immediately disclosed the relationship to the board. I can do that. And finally, the chair glanced at Victoria. Mrs. Cain has requested permission to speak. Victoria stood, approaching Camila with slow, measured steps. When she finally spoke, her voice was thick with emotion. Miss Montenegro, I owe you an apology. I let fear control me. Fear of losing my son's legacy. Fear of scandal. I didn't stop to consider what my son might be gaining. She paused, visibly struggling. I had Sebastian when I was 22. His father and I weren't married. I know what it's like to raise a child alone while the world judges you. And I became exactly what I once feared. A judge. Camila's throat tightened. Mrs. Cain, I would like to meet my grandson, if you'll allow it. The request hung in the air, fragile and hopeful. Sebastian moved closer to his mother. Diego would like that. He asks about grandparents sometimes. Victoria's eyes filled with tears. Then perhaps we could have dinner. The 4 of us. I'd like to start over, if that's possible. Camila looked at Sebastian, saw the hope and pain warring in his expression. She thought about Diego, asking about family, about belonging, about the father who now wanted to be present. Sunday dinner, she said finally. 6 o'clock. But if you hurt my son, Billionaire or not, I will make you regret it. Victoria laughed, a sound of surprised delight. I believe you would. I think I'm going to like you, Miss Montenegro. They left the building together, stepping into afternoon sunshine that had burned away the morning fog. Reporters still clustered near the entrance, but Sebastian waved them off with a brief statement about family privacy and second chances. In the car, Camila finally let herself feel the weight of what had happened. I just quit my dream job. You can find another one. Better. I'll write you a recommendation that will open any door in the city. Your mother threatened me and then cried and asked me to dinner. I don't know how to process that. Sebastian pulled her against him, his laugh rumbling through his chest. Welcome to the Cain family. We're dramatic, I noticed. They picked up Diego from Patricia's house. The boy launched himself at Sebastian with 5-year-old enthusiasm. "Daddy!" Miss Patricia let me help make cookies. The word daddy still made Sebastian's breath catch every time. "Did you save me one?" "Maybe." Diego grinned, reaching into his pocket to produce a slightly crumbled chocolate chip cookie. That evening, they sat in Sebastian's penthouse. Diego sprawled between them on the floor, building an elaborate tower from blocks while narrating an epic story about superheroes and dragons. "We need to find a bigger place," Sebastian said quietly. "Somewhere with a yard. Maybe a dog. You're moving fast. I've already lost 5 years. I'm not wasting another day." He turned to face her fully. "Marry me." Camilla's breath stopped. "What?" "Marry me. Not because it's proper or expected or good for publicity. Marry me because 5 years ago I met someone who changed my life and I was too stupid to hold on to her. Marry me because we have a son who deserves to see his parents choose each other every day. Marry me because I love you, Camila. I've loved you since Miami and I'll love you until the end of everything." "Sebastian, I don't have a ring yet. I'll get one tomorrow. Something perfect. But I need you to know right now that I'm choosing you. I'm choosing us. I'm choosing this family." Diego looked up from his blocks. "Are you going to kiss Mommy?" "People kiss when they love each other." Camila laughed through tears. "Out of the mouths of babes." "Well?" Sebastian's green eyes held hers with devastating intensity. "Are you going to make me beg in front of our son?" She kissed him then, soft and sure and full of promise. "Yes, on one condition. Anything. We do this right. Slowly. Diego comes first. Always." "Always," Sebastian agreed. Diego cheered, knocking over his block tower in his excitement. "Does this mean I get to be in a wedding?" "You get to be the most important part," Camila assured him. "Can I wear a superhero cape?" Sebastian and Camila looked at each other and laughed, the sound bright and free and full of possibility. "Absolutely," Sebastian said. "Every wedding should have at least one superhero." 3 months later, they stood in a small garden ceremony with only family and close friends. Diego did wear a cape, green to match Sebastian's eyes and his own. Rosa cried through the entire service. Victoria held her grandson's hand, whispering stories about his father as a boy. When the minister asked if anyone objected, Diego shouted, "I think it's perfect," making everyone laugh. Sebastian kissed his bride while their son cheered and threw rose petals in the air. Later, at the reception, Camila stood on the terrace watching the sunset paint the city in shades of gold and amber. Sebastian joined her, wrapping his arms around her waist. "Any regrets?" "Not a single one." "Good. Because I have something to tell you. If you say you're buying another company, better." He turned her to face him, his expression serious. "I'm stepping back from Cain Enterprises, promoting Patricia to CEO." Camila's eyes widened. "Sebastian, that's your empire." "No, it was my obsession. My way of proving I was more than the poor kid from the wrong side of town." "But I don't need to prove anything anymore." He cupped her face. "You and Diego are my empire now. I want to be present. Really present. Not the father who misses recitals because of board meetings. Not the husband who's too tired for dinner conversations." "What will you do?" "I have some ideas. Smaller ventures. Things with purpose beyond profit. Maybe philanthropy. Maybe teaching." He smiled. "I have a very talented marketing consultant who might be willing to advise me. If she's not too busy with her own firm." "My own firm?" "Victoria and I talked. We'd like to invest in your startup. Fair market terms. You'd maintain controlling interest." Camila stared at him, torn between laughter and tears. "You're giving me a marketing firm as a wedding present?" "I'm giving you the chance to build your own empire. On your terms." "I don't know what to say." "Say you'll build something amazing. Say you'll let me watch you change the world the way you've changed mine." She kissed him as the sun set on one chapter and rose on another. Inside, Diego danced with Rosa, his cape flying behind him. Patricia laughed with the caterer. Victoria watched her son with tears of pride and relief. And somewhere in the city, Marcus Reeves read the wedding announcement and tore it into pieces. But it didn't matter. His power was gone. The empire he'd tried to destroy had been rebuilt on stronger foundations. Foundations of truth, of family. of love that had survived 5 years and countless obstacles. 6 months later, Camila Montenegro Cain sat in her office in the building she'd purchased with her investors' backing. Her first campaign for a women's shelter had just won a national award. Diego's artwork covered one wall of the space, his drawing of their family rendered in vibrant crayon. Sebastian appeared in the doorway, holding 2 cups of coffee. "Your 2 o'clock canceled. Want to play hooky and pick up Diego early from school?" She smiled, saving her work and grabbing her coat. "Absolutely." They walked out together into afternoon sunshine, hands linked, building an empire of their own. Not one of glass towers and board meetings, but of shared meals and bedtime stories and quiet mornings watching their son discover the world. And if sometimes Camila thought about that night in Miami, about the stranger with kind eyes who had listened to her dreams, she smiled, because that stranger had become her husband, her partner, the father who showed up every day. The empire hadn't fallen. It had transformed into something better, something real. The end.